Morning everyone, I'm Greg Stevens. I'm the founder of Dark Fusion Holdings. I'm here with Nick Vandenberg, our Chief Marketing Officer, and Mr. Greg van der Spey, Chief Executive Officer of Dark Fusion Technologies. It's great to be back in our Ignition month, the third week. A lot of interesting stuff's been happening. It's been really exciting doing these showcases, and it's great to be here. And I'm very excited today because we have some big announcements. Hey, what's going on here, Nick?
Hey, Greg, thank you. And this is just amazing to be here today. It is a big announcement. We've been, holding back a little bit from the network. And, we're here to announce the Fair Gaming ecosystem, which is just super exciting.
The Fair Gaming Network, eh?
Yeah, so it's packed with incredible opportunity if you consider the industry that it's tapping into.
Yeah.
If you look at the product suite and you look how the network is going to be able to benefit going forward from everything that we've put together within this product suite. It's really incredible.
I'm going to stop you there before you jump in, because I know you've got a lot of insightful information to run through. But this is a big moment for myself specifically. I come from a gaming background. You know my story in esports. I founded one of the first major online esports tournament products in the US. This is kind of circa 2008, where we were looking at products like CSGO Lounge, one of the first companies to launch a third-party esports tournament products into the American market. I'm a semi-competitive StarCraft player 1 and 2. So I've got a big history in esports. I've been in the business for 15 to 20 years before I got into crypto gaming. So this is a big moment for me, and I'm really excited about what we're creating and the value that we're going to be bringing into the network. You're also have got quite a rich gaming background, Greg.
I'm a bit of a super nerd. That is true. That's a bit of an understatement. So. I competed at some of the highest levels in the world for a vast majority of first-person shooters for over 8 years. ESL Nation Cup winners, competing locally and having our South African colors for gaming, competed overseas multiple times. So
wow.
Really, really enjoy my gaming. Don't get to do much of it now anymore, but you know what? I think it was really a nice little phase of my life that equipped me for everything else. It's what resulted in my exposure to crypto. I won't go into too much detail about the first WoW item I bought using Bitcoin, which was what my first Bitcoin transaction.
I think you should go into detail about that.
So I'm going to leave the amount out because that's the scary part. So the first Bitcoin transaction I ever did is I bought a bind and equip WoW item. I was trolling the forums one day. There was an item that was for sale. I engaged with the guy and he said, "Listen, I'll only engage if I accept Bitcoin, if I transfer in Bitcoin." And I was like, "Well, is this a PayPal solution? I don't really understand what this is." This was early 2011.
Wow.
So jumped onto that, purchased a bunch of Bitcoin from the local forums, local Carbonite forums at the time. And then obviously that sort of kick-started this exposure and experience into gaming. And I think it's also resulted in such a nice fundamental understanding of both of these ecosystems, because it's really truly equipped the way in which we build products and the way in which we engage with our user base, especially from a gaming perspective. So that's been super exciting.
Yeah, so if I look at my history, so we go from esports in 2009, really the migration from LAN-based gaming, bringing that into an online arena with this third-party tournament product in the American market, games like StarCraft, Trackmania, FIFA, being able to compete in these online tournaments for reward, because when we look back then, there were a lot of guys grinding out in these LAN tournaments through a manual submission process. Very tedious journey that you'd have to go through to actually win one of these events. And then we understood that there was this real community and populace that wanted to compete in tournaments that were automated, where they could be rewarded for the time that they were grinding out in tournaments. And then from there, we started looking at other ways we could bring esports and mobile gaming into emerging markets, understanding there was huge opportunity where you talk about your journey in Africa with Counter-Strike and what was happening in the esports landscape, and how big it is growing here in the African context.
Yeah, it's crazy. Look, I focus more on the Call of Duty side and Battlefield. And that
So
was
it wasn't
just-
Counter-Strike?
No, it was. I played a bit of
Okay.
CS. I wasn't.
Okay, I
wasn't.
thought you were Counter-Strike.
No.
Okay.
There were much
My
better
bad.
players at CS than I was.
Yeah.
I didn't have the patience for that game. I got very stuck into the Call of Duty landscape and the high aggressive sort of
Okay.
FPS playstyle, and that transitioned into Battlefield, and that just really was the most fun I've had in gaming ever. That was where we really competed on the international stage and put a name for ourselves. I used to play for Vara Gaming, one of the best
a
local
top
organization. It's one of
brand.
the top brands locally. Andreas and Dimi run such an amazing organization through it, and I spent 8 years in that team. It really has fundamentally set my mind as in terms of a different approach to the way in which I perceive gaming.
What is the connection between, these high-profile, competitive, hardcore gamers and be very tuned into the crypto industry? All the top gamers that I meet have huge experience in the crypto industry or have done very well in the crypto industry, like yourself.
I think you inevitably, you're spending so much time online, there's an indirect exposure to crypto, right?
Yeah.
Especially on the early stages, right? It became a very sort of a dark space to be in the initial stages. No one quite understood what it was. And then it just became an accepted payment method online. And being online for so many hours a day, practicing, playing, you inherently get that indirect exposure.
Wow.
But it is also very interesting because in order to compete at that high level, you need to be a certain character. You need to have a certain amount of dedication and diligence. And that level or that constantly striving for excellence, I think it resonates in other areas of your life, right? If you have the ability to refine that skill by utilizing gaming as a tool, I think it has a massive systemic impact on everything else, because vast majority of the top competitive players that I used to play with are all extremely accomplished individuals right now, because they just extrapolated that learning and understanding into the real world. And I think that's what starts to separate the competitive players from, for lack of a better word, the noobs, right?
And
Casual player.
And
Casual
you,
player.
Mr. Vandenberg, you've also got a history in gaming, or not esports, but the iGaming industry. When we look back to your ad agency days, your
Yes.
infamous ad agency days, and you've got some experience there.
Yeah, I've got quite extensive experience in iGaming. I feel like this is all coming together now with the launch of the Fair Gaming Network. And just for me, just to segue in, it was also around that spectators now can also participate in the sporting arena. So if you're looking at the competitive nature of the esports world, within that iGaming framework, it allows for the spectator to participate in what's actually happening within this gaming ecosystem, and to, feel part of that they're actually able to, earn from what's happening within that esports arena, which is just so
100%.
exciting. So, yeah, very much so around looking at how we're going to empower the network through all that experience. So very exciting.
So we've got a bit of a background here,
Yeah.
a lot of experience sitting here when it comes to gaming, esports, iGaming, huge industry, which is exploding, in the core three segments, which is you've got your personal computer, you've got your console gaming, you've got your mobile gaming, which is the predominant makeup of that. And within that, there's the micro gaming segment, which we're looking at revenues eclipsing $250 billion now. So this is a massive industry. But when we look at it in the context of this tie to Bitcoin and the crypto, there's some exciting angles there. So huge industry, huge opportunity. Now, I want to take a step back and look at, what is unique from our perspective with this network, and let's break it down. So firstly, the Fair Gaming Network, in an essence, is a gaming offering that we're going to be exclusively bringing into Vara, accessing this huge industry, different verticals within the industry, where we look at fantasy sports, where we look at esports, where we look at sports betting, casino. So there's some exciting topics there that I want to unpack today, and then we can get into a little bit more detail.
I think also where to start is the way that we've gone about this. And I mean, maybe Greg wants to talk around this, is that there is going to be a fair token that governs this ecosystem. So it's about looking at these different product sets within the overall iGaming, entertainment, sports sector, as you just alluded to, but it's all coming together with this ecosystem that we've built out.
Yeah.
And that's really the secret sauce for the network layer that they're able to earn from everything that we're doing within this ecosystem.
Look, it's an important caveat because fundamentally what we're looking at is sans SEL, none of the things that we're doing at the moment would be possible, especially when you start to look at it from a compliance standpoint, right? So for me to be able to say 2 years ago, hey guys, there's a gaming network that is able to derive revenue down to the isolated or the base layer token in the form of the fair token in a compliant manner that allows participants or holders of the token to earn through certain compliance vehicles, right? I would look at it and say, well, look, there's how do you enforce investor protections? How do you make sure that the compliance meets up? How do you tie in licensing arrangements because you have compliant and non-compliant ways, right? The vast majority of the current crypto plays is focusing on the non-compliant play, which quite frankly is of zero interest to us. But it has to form a foundational layer in terms of being able to equip us with the different verticals, because within gaming, there's different verticals. So let's start on fantasy sports, right? The product we built from a fantasy sports perspective is fantastic because it's a extremely compliant solution. It's a non-iGaming orientated product. It is a free-to-play fantasy sports solution that is predicated on social engagement and social benefit to the users and the participants. In other words, how do we all enjoy a game and from a fantasy sports perspective as friends? What does it look like? What do the losers have to do? How do I influence my teams? How do I influence your teams, as an example? So the framework in terms of being able to create these silos within the gaming sector is amazing because equipping us from a technology standpoint, if we rely very heavily on EVMs, the throughput requirements really limit our ability to be able to do this properly, and also from a compliance standpoint, really limit it. Now you extrapolate that over an additional sector in the form of gaming, in the form of casinos, in the form of iGaming, right? You have the ability to run these siloed compliant vehicles, which essentially derive the entirety of the revenue of that product to the underlying token in a compliant way. That's where we start to get really groundbreaking in the sense of how we can penetrate into these markets, and more importantly, how we can equip users and how we can equip the compliance standpoint to be able to be legal, compliant, above board, and transparent in the process. There's way more than that we can do from a tokenization standpoint there, but I'm not going to touch on that just yet. I'm going to save some for next week.
And that's really, for me, where the value lies within the Fair token, which we'll be introducing into the Vara network exclusively. It's not just about opening up this massive industry opportunity, but it's about giving the network the value through this token, which is underpinned by essentially 4 strong products that we're going to introduce. The first being fantasy sports, which is built and ready to go, which we will be launching officially in the beginning of December. Then we're looking at moving on to a very robust casino product with sports betting in a very compliant manner. And then we have some exciting additions that we're going to announce further down the line. But this really makes the value that is Fair Gaming. This is the network. It's one token with really strong products that accesses this unbelievable industry. But the key to success with any digital product, when we look at products that we've launched in the past, we look at the iGaming industry, which is actually quite saturated at the moment, all comes down to distribution, acquisition. How do we acquire customers? How do we bring users into the space where we can actually drive the value or derive the value out of these products? And that's where this network layer comes in. If we can empower the network to access this industry while being incentivized, this is the holy grail.
Greg, that's the key, and you rightly say, the industry itself is very saturated. I think for us, the uniqueness is that we have this incredible direct marketing channel in Vara. And, if you're looking and unpacking this value proposition for our ambassadors, individuals within the Vara ecosystem, they're able to now derive ongoing revenue opportunities from the Fair Gaming network. So as they're propagating, the ultra fair product, the fantasy sports product into the market, the ambassadors are going to earn from that revenue opportunity. So as players are entering the ecosystem, whether they're taking out subscriptions or boosters in the instance of ultra fair, that revenue that's going to be derived will be applicable back to the ambassador layer.
I also
So
think-
that's how we've tied it together.
I think it's also, there's an additional step to this, is because of the use of the underlying technology, we essentially have a future-proofing capability of it. And I mean, you hit the nail on the head. The market right now is extremely saturated in terms of what's currently available. But more importantly is that if you add a compliance tokenized structure underneath it, we have the ability to add so much more value, especially from a user perspective in terms of how they engage with the system, how they interact with the system, how they own parts of the system, how they interact from a revenue perspective. That's where things start to get very interesting. So basic example is like, imagine tokenizing a single game within a casino. Imagine tokenizing a single player within a fantasy sport.
You just let the cat out of the bag.
Yeah, he did.
Sorry,
I mean,
sorry,
he did. We were keeping it close.
So
No.
look, there's a lot more to that, and the
Yeah.
thing is that like extending it behind us is that the underlying technology allows us to equip not only the users but also the builders within the system, because these compliant frameworks allow us to be able to add so much more. And I need to catch myself now
But
before I
when you
share
say
too much.
when you say compliance, and this is also a big thing, it's also around creating a gaming network with optionality.
Yes.
There are regions that don't agree with
100%.
casinos, that don't agree with what casinos represent and stand for, but that's why we've got the fantasy sports product.
Absolutely.
That's why we're creating a network of all these products that we're bringing into this one governing token, which essentially is the driving force. So you as the user have that option of the experience that you want to enjoy
Yeah, of course.
in a compliant way.
100%. And I mean, like the individual silos need to be able to service not only the distinct user bases, but also the different compliance requirements
Yes.
based on the different jurisdictions. So in the light of the casino has to be fully licensed. The
Yeah.
casino has to have a full underlying framework. It has to have sufficient custody of digital assets, sufficient custody of, and frameworks associated with that, so that we have the ability to make sure that it's verifiable, it's provable, it's on-chain. We have full transparency in that. But there is still a caveat to that, to have this license framework, right? The same thing is from a fantasy sports perspective, by allowing us to enter into territories where there is no licensing requirements around the compliant solution we've built, which I think is, as of to date, I've never seen anyone address the problem the way we've done it now. But it's each of these silo have the ability to service completely different elements of the ecosystem. And beyond all of that is how we equip businesses within the ecosystem on a B2B basis based on the underlying frameworks that we build, not only from tokenization, but also from compliance. And all of that value resides within the singular network, right? And I think that's a very, very important thing that people need to understand. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that. I'll save that for next week. But it is fundamentally very important as to how we address these problems and how these vehicles and these silos are used to service the industry. Because unfortunately, when you combine a gaming-based business with crypto, there tends to be a massive amount of aversion towards the product on the basis that most people assume it's non-compliant. Look, there are a couple of competitors in the market right now that are definitely not compliant. But the reality is that we have not only a responsibility to the participants within the network, but we have a legal responsibility to make sure that everything is above board, everything is licensed, everything is transparent, and more importantly, because it's on a blockchain, everything is verifiable. That's the benefit of the technology we're using.
Incredible, incredible. I'm really excited about this, guys. We've been working on it for a long time. I feel like my life is coming around full circle, and it's something that I'm extremely passionate about. And when you tie it into what we're doing from a crypto perspective, it truly is game-changing that we're creating this gaming network, accessing one of the biggest industries. We've got our own in-house products that we've built out, licensed, from fantasy sports to sports betting to esports. And there's a lot more that we're going to be introducing, which is going to be exclusively brought to the network. And this is where the value really changes, about giving the network access to this unbelievable industry and then using the power of the Bitcoin network to drive it. When we're looking about, again, Vara, DFG, the Fair Gaming token, all being listed through our decentral exchange on the Bitcoin network.
And we've got some really exciting news on that front. That's the
that more detail to follow.
more detail to follow.
On Friday,
Yes.
we're doing a full company update and showcase on the Fair Gaming network. The Dev Diary today is just to announce that this will be launching exclusively to our Vara ambassadors. We're very excited about it, and it's very exciting.
I think what's so nice about it, Greg, is that it also allows for the network to utilize this product set to bring a new consumer into the ecosystem.
Yeah,
so how how the sporting world, just such a vast, massive participation sport as well as a spectator sport, and we're able to now allow for the Vara ambassadors to tap into that and just bring more and more people into the Vara fold. So
I mean, the sports element is a really, really valid point because it truly highlights the depth of the technology we're building, right? Very simply put, is that the fantasy sports element functions not only as a social gaming element, but it also functions as a fan engagement application, allowing us to be able to service sports teams, communities, grassroots developments, and everything thereafter from a product offering perspective represents a tokenized system within our ecosystem that we have the ability to offer a compliant framework of ticketing solutions, player experiences, merchandising, whatever. There's no limits to it. And this is the thing that gets truly exciting from my standpoint is that there's the use of the technology. There's a lot that we don't know would be applicable in terms of this, the actual use case of the technology. But if you just apply it to sports as a single vertical, there's so much that you can do. There's so much work that's being put in the space. There's so much, I mean, our country's been alive since we won the World Cup, right?
Yeah.
It's the entirety of that passion, that building and
it's
community.
inside us at
It's
the moment.
unbelievably
Yeah.
exciting, and it's such a binding element to our community. And sports can fundamentally change so many elements of community, especially in terms of diverse inclusion, especially in terms of the way in which we participate with one another. And that's an exciting element because we're just providing a little bit of a tokenization element on top of it. And the ramifications are fantastic from that standpoint. And I mean, that's a single vertical within with the Fair Gaming Network. And I mean, I can talk about that for hours, right? Now we've got fantasy sports and a compliant solution. We've got gaming, we've got esports, we've got sports betting, we've got casino. These are each different verticals that have huge ramifications, not only for the network, but also for the participants. And I think that's what's so exciting about this.
I mean, what you just said now, just on a side note, my phone's going to blow up tonight because guys are going to be asking about ticketing and can we bring brands in and, I know the NFL. So it's a very exciting moment.
No, that it is.
Well, guys, this is truly very, very exciting. We've been working on this strategy now, this product offering for some time, and we're really delivering on huge value here to the network.
Absolutely, Greg. I mean, it's a massive value exchange. It's such an incredible opportunity for Vara and the propagation of this whole entire ecosystem. Just can't wait for the rollout from December.
Yeah, me too. Super excited. December's going to be a great month.
A lot more exciting detail to come. Don't miss out on Friday's showcase where we're going to go into a deep dive of the Fair Gaming Network. Guys, this is a game changer. This is revolutionary. We're going to change the landscape, accessing one of the biggest industries to date through a very, very unique model, which combines gaming with networking and all the opportunities that exist in that realm. So very exciting times, guys. We can't wait to get this product launched. Stay tuned for Friday. See you guys then.